So, welcome, Filbert. Thank you so much for agreeing to give this presentation, this webinar on block farming, which I know is something that is very close to your heart. And I have seen firsthand in Tanzania what an impact it has made on the lives of women and young people in Tanzania. So over to you to tell us all about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabita. Good afternoon and good morning. My name is Filbert. I've been coming from the agriculture sector. The same I've been trained in agriculture sector, specifically in agriculture economics and project management. I've been in the sector for the past 25 years ago, working with the different organizations and institutes, including the public organization, private sector, and different development partners. So I've been in the tea sector, working in Tanzania, Rwanda, and Kenya. But most of the time I've been engaged on developing smallholders farmers to make sure that the entire benefit from the tea crop, trying to commercialize their farming. So that's brief from my side. So what are these smallholders farmers we are talking about? It will be based much on Tanzania, where the model have been implemented. These are smallholder enterprises where they used to do farming and generate income through selling their leaf to different factories. And mainly they are using the family labor and they residing within the same plots they use to calculate. So the definition of the smallholders farmer, according to the Tanzania, we regard smallholders farmers, those farmers who hold less than 2 hectares on the farming. So we regard them as the smallholders farming. Although there are some of the smallholders farmers which they have more than 2 hectares, but majority they are lying within the 2 hectares. So that's the definition I'm going to talk about. The smallholders farmers I'm going to refer to. So these farmers, they are facing a lot of challenges in terms of commercializing their farming. Land ownership pattern is more than old men. And this is because of the historical perspective of the crop. The lifespan for the crop is more than 50 years. So automatically it's associated with the land ownership. So in Tanzania and the other part of the country in East Africa, you will find the tea farming or the smallholders farming, they're old people and majority are the men. So that is a main challenge on the inclusion of the gender and the youth in the tea value chain. Also, it has been very expensive to deliver extension service and logistic support to these fragmented smallholders farmers. And a lot of the companies, they're feeling like it's very expensive, especially on a logistic perspective, on the collecting and delivering the leaf to the factories at the other end of supplying the input to the smallholders farmers due to their fragmented small plots across the catchment. Lack of access of markets, as I said, the private company, they are looking for an area where they can get enough leaf with a good quality they want, but getting through those scattered smallholders farmers have been a big challenge. Even the negotiating power for the smallholders farmers to where they're selling their leaf has been a major challenge. So looking on the economics perspective, the economics of scale is not there because of their small size. A lot of costs, they are not spread within the entire supply chain because of their small sizes of area they are working with. On the land tenure, in Tanzania, farmers, they don't have those land titles and other documents related to their land. So that's bring a lot of challenges, especially for the recent voluntary sustainable standard, VSS compliance, and even the recent coming regulation like European Union developing the deforestation policy. So there is a lot of challenge making sure that the traceability is there because they don't have those details records, even the land titles where they are doing their farming. Also capacity, lack of capacity and resource to meet the complicity of the standards is quite a big, huge challenge. They don't have skills and even the support to make sure that they comply with those international standards. But they usually get the support from the aggregators who are the factory owners or other organization which supported them to make sure that they comply with the standards. So we are coming now to the innovation, the block farming model. I'll take you back to the history, why we designed this block farming model. In 2014 in Tanzania, there was a big program on developing smallholders farmers, mainly engaged on farm development, and it was supported with the development partners with the government, especially on the developing the farms. So those developing partners, including the Wood Foundation and the other partners, they have a target of developing 2,500 hectares in southern highland of Tanzania, mainly in the Jombe region. And that project, I was appointed to take the project through, and it was a project of 7 years of development. That means every year we were supposed to develop 300 plus hectares per year. So I was assigned that assignment, and with my team, we starting doing the sensitization to get the farmers who are ready across 28 village in the catchment area of the projects. And during doing the sensitization, registering of the farmers, we saw it was so difficult because the farmers, they are registered, but looking on the economics perspective on how we can manage those smallholder farmers was a big challenge because they are far apart and their land, they are fragmented. So to manage them properly, it was a big issue. So during the sensitization in 2014, one of the village, when we were on the village meeting discussing the issue, how we can register the farmers and who will do what and who will do what, trying to explain the farmer role on that project, especially mainly was to devote their labor to prepare the land and everything, but they will get the input on a loan basis with interest-free loans. This includes seedlings, fertilizers for the period of the development. So one village, I remember they come up that they had a land use plan for the village. And then the chairman of the village argued that we have a big plot around 150 hectares, so we can give a small plot around 50 hectares for all those farmers who are interested is to do farming there. So we started from there. They allocated that 50 hectares, and then we went through the registration process. But surprising, majority who registered for that development of that plots, they were youth people and women. But the idea, at that time, we did not know why are they registering more than the other people. But when we asked them, they say, we see this is an opportunity for us to own our own land because we used to work on the family blocks, family farms, which is always owned by the head of a household, which is generally the mains. So we started organizing that 50 hectare block and the project was supporting that they're supporting 1 hectare per farmer. Why 1 hectare? We look at a lot of issues, especially on the scales, economies of scales. And we did a minor calculation to look on the margin of the profit they're going to get. We arrived to 1 hectare, which is equivalent to 2.5 acres, which is reasonable for the farmer to work on that, and at least they will get a reasonable profit from the business. So we started from there. We have that block. Everybody, different organization, they came to visit and see how can you manage to reach at this block. And then we organized those farmers to work together. And then from there now, we started seeing there will be a risk because the number they've registered, 50 farmers in 50 hectares, when they started seeing the planted area and the progress of that block, a lot of farmers, they want to join the block, but the land was not there. So we have just starting seeing the risk now going forward. Probably it could bring a lot of the misunderstanding, and a lot of people, they want to go within the same block with a specific number they want to add up. So we started thinking on how we can de-risk those challenges, and we presented to the board of directors, and then we discussed, and it was taken very positive, and we have been given go ahead to see how we can formalize those blocks, that block, uh, to minimize the risk for the farmers. So the process engaged a lot of key stakeholders, mainly the local government, which we are working with, the central government, with its institution like the Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Agriculture at the Department of Cooperative, and other key partners who they were supporting the project. So after discussion, we come up to agree who will be the legal, what will be the legal entity where the land will be surveyed and titled for. There were a lot of issues. Some of the farmer, some of the key stakeholders, they wanted every 1 hectare to be surveyed and get the title. But looking on the size of that 1 hectare, it's very small, does not make so sense. So we came up with the idea of surveying the entire block and have a single title. So it took us almost a year to find a legal entity to register that block on behalf of the farmers. So after consulting different organizations, I remember we went to the business authorities. They've agreed to assist us to register the blocks under business registration, but the stumbling block on the registration was taxes and levies, because when you register as a business, you are supposed to comply with the taxes. So we have said we saw that that will be another burden to the farmers. So when we meet with the cooperative department and the Ministry of Agriculture, when they look at the Cooperative Act, they see there is a window of registering for the special purpose for the land. So we come and agree the block will be registered under special holding, special land holding cooperative. That will be the wing, and then the block, we surveyed the block, and then it was registered to that special land holding cooperative at that wing. At that area, there is no access the farmers they're supposed to do because it's under act of cooperative, but it's bringing together the farmers. And then we went further looking on the governance on how now, after registering the block and the members, how the governance should be on that block. So after long discussion, we come up with a legal articles according to the block, where the number of the farmers who own that block will be appendix. They were appendix on that block titles with their next of kin in case somebody died or somebody decided to leave the block or the business. They have listed also the next of kin for the block. So we started from there. We registered that to block 1, and then we keep on now changing the approach of developing the smallholders farms. Instead of being small plots, we went on the block model. Not all villages they have the surveyed land according to the Land Act, yeah? But some of the farmers, they have been on the one area. So we use the same, put the same farmers, and then we survey the block, and then the farmers list or members were put under the appendix. So we started from there, and then we started escalate to the other villages. So to implement that, we develop an agreement within the partners, the government, the development partners, and the local government, who to do what on the survey of those blocks. Because the surveying, it involves time and cost also. So we have agreed the local government, them they will give the technical expertise on the survey, having the surveyors with all the implement for the surveying, and then the farmers, they will their role will be being part of that activity during the survey to fix those beacons, and then to supply the material for fixing those beacons, to show the boundaries. That's what the responsibility of the farmers. And development partners were responsible for financing or other activities. So that's how we did and bring all the parties together. So in 2016, we replicated from 1 block now to 70 block, with all of them with the title deeds. And we continue to go in that direction. As I'm speaking now, the 2,500 project targets, 85% of the farms are in the blocks. So what is the block offered? One, have the risk, the land ownership. All risk associated with land ownership was managed with all necessary information in line with the land ownership was sorted out. And then after having the block, it's attract another key innovations, like irrigation scheme was put there, mechanical harvesting, the machining was coming in to assist the farmers on those respective blocks. And also compliance with this voluntary sustainable standard was quite easy when we started register the farmer on the rainforest standard plus other voluntary standards. So that was another advantage. And also the economies of scales. Now, even the extension service, one extension officer can give the service to more than 100 farmers on one plots. And even the logistic cost was cut down because transportation of the leaf was quite easy. And even to improve the roads to those blocks was being seen as visible for the government to do that instead of connecting the individual farmers. Also, market, as I said before, individual farmers, sometimes the companies or the factories going to individual farmers to collect the leaf was very difficult. Sometimes if they see the cost is higher, they didn't do that. But having them to the block, they give the power for the farmer to negotiate to who to sell our crop or to who to sign the contract to deliver our green leaf. So that's another advantage we have seen on that. And the access now to the loans and other grants was very easy. As I'm talking now, some of the blocks, they've started getting some funds from different donors, some banks, because they see they can be loaned because of the size of the land, the governance structure, and they have one account for payment. When they're selling their leaf to the factories, they have one account where the factory deliver their money through their green leaf sold there at one account, and then they distribute within themselves according to what they have delivered to the factory. And then some of the block, they've decided some of the money will be retained for doing other activities or applying for the loans or getting some grants. So that was the key achievement. I've mentioned the process, how, who have been involved. The local government, the central government, have said, especially for the local government, the Ministry of Lands, which we discussed together, assuring the land policies is aligned to what we are going to do. Even the cooperative department and the Ministry of Agriculture, they're trying to look on the policy act, cooperative act, if it's aligned to what we are supposed to do. And then respective agriculture institutions like department in the local government, we work together, farmers organizations, philanthropic foundation, mainly the Wood Foundation was the main partner on that process and the one who funding the program for developing the farmers. And then agricultural processing factories, they also assisted us in terms of how to develop which kind of the tea is needed for the factories and the quality controls. And individual farmers, as I said, individual farmers, they were part and parcel on the survey for the block titles. So what did they do? As I said, there was a sharing objective. First of all, we had a lot of engagement within the partners to know exactly what we are going to do. And although it was not easy, some of organizations say, this is very difficult to happen. Some of them, they see this is a good model because there is no anywhere to copy or to see. It was very difficult for the people to believe it could happen. So engagement was the key issues. At the end of the time, we agree and we went together to implement the model. Collective design and implementation of the framework. As I said before, it was an agreement between the key partners. And then we agree the special land holding cooperative and the Cooperative Act is the one to register as a legal entity to register the farmers as I've explained before, and then develop a legal binding agreement to protect the land right for each collective member. As I said, the members are put in the appendix on the title deed with the next of the kin, and then we put the governance structure for each block. So what are the benefits? I mentioned some of them on the previous slides, but it secures the land right and prioritize the gender equity and youth inclusion. As I mentioned before, when we recruit, majority of the people, youth and women, they were the one who they are interested rather than compared to the men. The reason behind they want to own their own land rather than sharing the household farm. So majority of women, they join the program, and the program as I'm speaking now as members is more than 80% are women and youth on those programs, but there are more women. So the inclusion has been proved there at that model. Foster collective action among the farmers. Putting the farmers together for quite a long time, they're becoming like the family. So they're working together, they're designing together. Some of them, they've started organizing the 7 financing within themselves, the small finance credit association within the block members. Also enhance productivity. As I said, it's easy for extension services, logistics, and even delivery of the input. So the productivity went higher compared to the individual farmers, and also enable efficient delivery to the essential farm inputs. It's easy because once we deliver, for example, fertilizer or seedlings to one block, maybe one 100 hectares. It's very easy rather than going through the different individual plots. Also facilitate another innovation like mechanical harvesting, which in the areas which are facing labor intensive for hand plucking, it's very easy to get the supporters to support the farmers and the group with plucking machinery. Also the irrigation is being visible to block farm, because the agenda of the government of Tanzania is to assist the smallholders farmers to irrigate their crops. But it was very difficult for assisting the scattered individual farmer with the small plots. So that was an opportunity for the government also to pilot the irrigation and fit the irrigation system to the blocks. And also we, after having on the initial block we went to 70 block, and then we started going to replicate the model. Now it's outside the T. It's went on the different other value chain crops. So the case studies, what are the main beneficiaries and the stories from the farmers? One of the farmer, majority of the farmer, they get significant amount of income, which can put and invest to some assets. Some they manage to build the schools. Some of the farmers manage to buy their own plucking machines. Some of the farmers, they want to be part of providing the logistics. They got some loans. They buy some trucks to assist them to collect the leaf and from their blocks and the other farmers to the factories. So those are emerging key impacts after implementing the block. So looking on the picture, that's a practical example. One of the farmer, he mentioned that with the additional and the reliable income he got from the block farming, he's able to build a new house. So that's one of the example, but the number of examples that's emerging positive impact from the block farming. So scaling up, we started, as I said, in 2014, we started with one block, an official registered. In 2016, we went to 5 special land holding cooperative blocks with 500 hectares, with 566 farmers. When you see the size of the land and the number of farmers, you can see roughly it goes to 1 hectare. But interesting news, look on the number of females. They're higher compared to the men. And when I'm talking of the men, it's not the old men. Majority, they're just the youth who joined the program. And then on 2020, we replicated the same model. We reached up to 70 small special land holding blocks with 1,300 hectares, with 1,500 youth farmers, of which 800 females and 700 males. So you can see the inclusivity of the marginalized people on the block farming, how have resulted from this model. So in 2020, the Minister of Agriculture used to visit the program several times. And lastly, when he visited in 2020, you see that is a nice model to be replicated to the other value chain in Tanzania. So he took that as a serious, and they started working at the ministerial level. And then in 2023, a national program, Building a Better Tomorrow, specifically for the youth people and the women, was started and launched by the Honorable Excellence President. And it got a lot of funders, and the government is the main actor that. So a lot of youth people and women, they have joined, but that's not now for teas, for different value chain, but mainly it's your horticultural crops, and now it's going to the other value chain. So 2023, they started with 2 blocks with 300 hectares with 600 youth and women farmers on those blocks, mainly doing the horticultural crops. And 2024, the government have identified and allocated almost 350 hectares of land specifically for that program for building a better tomorrow, specifically for youth. So ideally, you'll see from where we started and now how the model it is now. It's a national model, and it has been taken very positively, and a lot of youth are being engaged on that model. But the government went far away. Instead of assuring the youth with owning the land, but also they support them with interest-free loans and technical expertise associated with different innovation. As I mentioned, the irrigation the government is doing for the youth. Ideally, they want to engage more youth in agriculture sector to control the level of unemployment in the country. So that is it. But during the whole process, we met a lot of challenges, a number of challenges. I'll mention some few. The other one is getting idea to be owned by different partners. As I mentioned before, it was not easy. Some of the institutions say, no, this is very difficult to happen. Some of the organizations say, so what do you mean? You mean you want this to own the land? Who will bear the cost of titling and getting all the information? If it's a block, how could that legal be? So there was a lot of those issues. That was one challenge. Another one was for the development phase. A lot of those land for block farming for the villages, they were allocated far away from the infrastructure, mainly the roads, connecting roads. So they were allocated those lands which are far away, but because we started from piloting phase, and the government have seen the results. So the government was ready to assist, connect those blocks with a good roads so that the delivery of inputs and transporting of the green leaf was easy. Another challenge was misunderstanding during the sensitization process. When we start, the number of the people registered is huge, but when you start the process of land preparation and everything, you get the number of people getting down, down, down. But what we have decided, if the area is 500 hectares or 100 hectares, we register more farmers because we know on the process, some of them will drop and then will remain with a significant amount of members who, when we divide the area, at least every farmer has got 1 hectare to do. So those were the main challenge, but took us time to mitigate them. And now I'm happy to say the model have been owned national. And then after that program, I was appointed to the same project to Rwanda. Rwanda was quite a bit different, was not the same. A good thing with Rwanda, every plot of the farmer is surveyed and it's got all the titles. So there, it's just to mobilize them to be on the same area, but we didn't do the surveying because the surveying has been done to individual farmers. So you see the model is replicated to outside Tanzania to the other countries, but there is a bit of tweaking so that it can merge with what is existing to the respective country. So I'll end here and I'll be waiting for some questions and more clarifications if it's there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Filbert. That was extremely interesting and inspiring. And I just wanted to pick up on some unique aspects of this model, which really struck me as you were speaking. I think, clearly it's a very successful model because it appears to have been picked up and replicated in other crops, other countries. The government has run with it. And it seems to me that the success of it, and what's really positive about it is, it started, as you explained to us, it started with listening to the farmers themselves and observing how they reacted to that initial call to farm tea. And it's that listening and then moving into a multi-stakeholder model. So how you've involved government, philanthropic organizations, the farmers themselves, aggregators. And I think those are probably, a really big part of how it's become so successful. And I mean, it sounds like Tanzania has a wonderfully responsive and supportive government, but that fact that the government is actually picking up on it and expanding it and supporting it, it's really gives the sign of how sustainable it is. And I'm particularly heartened to see how it's supporting youth and how young people are taking it up, because obviously this is one of the big challenges in the agricultural sector. Are you trying to stop sharing? I think that would be in your in the Zoom controls. Yeah. Thank you, Filbert. Yeah, so really heartening to see how it's encouraging young people, and also just to finally to say, in our alternative approaches report, we've looked at each of the case studies that we've presented and how they've addressed the root causes of human rights breaches in the tea sector that we've identified in our human rights impact assessment. And I think, this model, as you've mentioned several times, fragmentation within the tea industry, whether it's smallholders or at different levels of the value chain, is one of the big drivers of human rights challenges. And so I think what you've shown us is that this model can address fragmentation. It addresses another root cause was government's policies either not being appropriate or not being properly implemented. So again, the way that the government has been involved has clearly addressed that. But anyway, I will now hand over to our respected participants to see if there are questions or comments. And could I also ask, while we do that, that you put in the chat who you are and which organization you're from. If everybody could do that, and we will also, so that we can see who's here, and we'll also take some questions for Filbert. Yes, so would everyone like to put in the chat where they're from? Hi, Ingrid, welcome. Oh, obviously you've made a very clear presentation, Filbert. People are not wondering where it goes. But maybe if I could ask, yeah, John, you have a question, please.
Yeah. Yeah, one or two. I mean, thank you for the wonderful presentation, emphasizing on the points Sabida has already summed up. So I'm not repeating that. But if one or two questions I thought for understanding. One is that what was the status of the land before we were doing this block? To whom did it belong to? And the second is that how is the block registered? Is it registered as a cooperative society, or is it registered just as a block? I mean, without any legal thing, it was not very clear. And also, what is the status of the farmer within the block? Whether they are members or they are landowners, and what was that? See, and the final question is that when you give the tea to the factories, do you negotiate with multiple factories to get a fair price? And actually, who owns those factories? Who own those factories? Sorry for asking so many questions.
Thank you, John. Because you also work with smallholder farmers in Assam, don't you? Yeah, thank
Yes.
you, Filbert.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. So I'll start with the first one, who own the land where the block is. In Tanzania laws, the land is owned by the government. They'll just rent to the individual. So the government, the village government is the one who owning the land. So according to the law of Tanzania, the village government own the entire land within the government, the village. So the village, they are supposed to have the land use plan within their village. So they demarcate this for cattle layering, this for the, if there is this for building the schools, this for what. So you find some of the village, they have plenty of land. And then after in the land use plan, they just locate some lands for other developments. So we found there is a land for these traditional cash crops development. So they are there. So we took that opportunity of developing those lands through the village government. But they will just give you the blocks without anything. You need to go through the process of getting the legal ownership. Not only for the farmers, the village, they can put the land. Any investor who can come there, you want to invest, they can negotiate with the village and then they can give them the land. And then it's your responsibility to go through the authority to register and get the title deed. So that's how the land is. But we didn't just end it for the development. After being successful in developing those blocks, even we went further now, trying to aggregate the already planted crop, which are nearby. We survey and having a common title. So it was not only on the development phase, it went beyond the development phase. Even the existing tea, which were the farmers, smallholders farmers, they have those pockets, but they are not having the title. We try to aggregate them together according to the geographical location and get the title for them. So that's one. On the legal registrations, as I said, after going through different organizations, getting who will be the right legal entity to register, we went through the cooperative. The cooperative department is managing the cooperative for the business. But there is an article, farmers, they can form a cooperative under special task. So we went through that article in the law. We register through the special task or special activity. So the land was just registered under cooperative as a special mission. It was only holding the land, but the farmers, they are still under the cooperative for the business. So we register them under special land holding cooperative.
Okay.
And the purpose is only for owning the land. I forgot, you say the status of the farmers on the block? Sorry,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you
yes.
repeat?
Yes. I mean, they are members of the cooperative, or they had individual owners of the land.
Yeah, so all the farmers, according to the Tanzanian Agriculture Act, they're supposed to be under cooperative. So all the farmers, they are under cooperative as a usual. But within the cooperative, there is a special land holding in the blocks. As I said before, the purpose is just to own the land. But the farmers, they are still under umbrella of the cooperative. So that's the difference. And the last one you mentioned about, sorry, I forgot the legal.
No. See how they negotiate with the factories to sell the leaf.
Okay.
And
So,
who owns the factory? Yeah.
In Tanzania, the smallholders farmers, they don't have factory. So they used to sell to the private companies. So what they're doing, according to the Tea Act of Tanzania, every year, the farmers, they sign a contract with their respective factory they want to sell. So there is a number of factories at the ground. So every year they can sign with their respective factory depending on how much they will get from the factory. But the government, they have the indicative price, which is set every year in a tea stakeholders meeting with a sharing ratio of 40 to 60 at the market price. So it's where they come up with the indicative price. So these factory owners, they're just competing. They can add. You are not allowed to go below the indicative price. You are supposed to go up. So they're competing and adding something there to get the leaf from the block. So they give power. The farmers in the block, they have the power to negotiate because they are big volume, and they have a good volume, big volume, and they have good quality teas. So a lot of these factory owners, they want to get from there. So they have an advantage. This year they can sign with factory A. Next time they can sign with factory B. It's how they work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Filbert. Pierre?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Filbert, for that nice, interesting presentation. I mean, land ownership is indeed a great problem in a lot of developing countries, a lot of African and Asian countries. I was wondering, you did mention in this model, which is specific to Tanzania of land ownership, how I had two questions. How is transmission, to is it of the land once the person, the landowner will retire or die, or is it to the children? Is it a transmission to the people who actually work? So which is also a good model, like since the land is locally owned, perhaps it is transmitted to other people who want to work. So how does not to the family? And the other question is how adaptable is the model? You've partially answered, but to other country contexts, because it seems very specific. Each country has its land ownership laws, and you mentioned Rwanda, which is quite different. And perhaps a third question is, in the line with transformation, is how does it really help in developing the value chain in favor of the farmers themselves? Obviously there's a whole in the block model. There's a whole model of organizing, as you mentioned, working together, etc., which seems to me a lot of the value added of the project. But is it included in the project? How is it linked, to land ownership, to the block model? How closely is it linked? Could you do the other part of collective without the block model in a country like Rwanda, where land ownership is more secured? You see, there's like several blocks in the block system itself. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start with the first one on how the members and how they can exit or remain. How does it work? As I said before, on the land block title, they have appendix of the members, which are legal owner of that land. But we have agreed every member should give two next of kin. So next of kin is coming within the valley, the family. So majority of the farmer, they're just giving their children. to be next of kin. As I said, majority they are women. So they've decided to give the next of kin in case she will pass away or he'll pass away, who will be owning that land. So they put on that legal document. They have option of putting 2. So what I've learned, majority of women, they put a women children, if they have, as a next of kin. But when you dig out and ask them, why are you putting women that you have several children? Why? Say, according to our culture, land is owned by men. So I want, if I pass away, my plot of land will be owned by my daughter. So that's the idea. So we have a very clear and legal structure on the block farm. If not only if somebody pass away, if somebody also decided I want to get away from this business, so that land should be owned to the next of kin, which is proposed from the member of the block. And then you mentioned about the value chain. How are they benefiting
Yeah.
from value chain? I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
I mean, it's a link with the question of John also from India. Is like I, I think there are 2 links in the system. There's the block model, but this is a way to step into a more collective way of managing.
Yeah.
You mentioned production, everything. He mentioned also processing, which is where
Yeah.
a lot of the value is also kept. So with this model, did you, perhaps it's too early, but did you observe that by securing the land ownership, you help the farmers go up the value chain and retain more value from the tea that is exported?
Yeah. One, as I said before, 8%, 85% of that program, the farms are in the blocks. The rest, the farms are under individual plot as usual. And you find even the members, they are in the block, but they're still having the individual family farms there. So they're working here and sometimes they're working on the family farms. A key issue here on the value chain, the people on the model, they have strong negotiating power. You know, if one block, we have the biggest block of 350 hectares together. So you can imagine the amount of leaf coming there. It gives them the power to negotiate in the value chain, how to do. And ideal, for example, the logistics provided by the factories, those collecting, weighing the leaf and everything is provided by the factory. But with this block now, the farmers, some of the block, they wanted to have their own logistic model. They want to have their own truck, and 2 blocks, they've already acquired their own trucks. So they transport their leaf themselves to the factory. So the factory is paying the leaf plus the logistic, the money for the logistic, because it's their role to come and collect the leaf. So you see they're adding more income to the farmers, making the farmers being part of the value chain at the logistic level. So that's it. And I'm seeing going forward, as they develop and working together for quite long, I've seen the farmers, they've changed the traditional way of farming, being more business people, because a lot of the key stakeholders are visiting them, discussing with them on how to work. And the other organization, they are trying to build the capacity for the negotiation and even the best business, how to do the business, because they are together. So that's how it works. I'm not sure if I've answered all of your questions.
Filbert, just before you go on to any other questions, we have just 1 minute left, and I'm conscious that people may need to leave for other meetings. So we can carry on if there are people who would like to stay on. But just for those who need to leave now, just to remind you that the next 2 webinars, the last 2 have been both from Tanzania, this one and Kazi Yetu last month. month. But next month, on April the 24th, we'll have Simon Bell from Sri Lanka, from the Ceylon Artisanal Tea Association. And on May the 29th, we have Catherine Gassert from Tea Campaign. So it's more of a tea brand who is going to talk to us about their innovative approach. So we hope that you all sign up for that. But there are a couple of questions in the chat. So Filbert, I think we have, it's lovely to see people here from Sri Lanka, India, Indonesia, from different European countries. I think Sita, your question about has the implementation of block farming led to an increase in price of leaves, maybe has been partially answered by the value question. And then we also have a question about whether you think the success of block farming is partially due to the stability of the Tanzanian government, and other countries may not have that benefit. So Filbert, up to you which questions you would like to answer.
Maybe I will start with the first one. Yeah, the way I see it's add more income to the farmers as they do, because a lot of the partners, they have been willing to assist those farmers, especially on the capacity building to make sure they produce the quality leaf. And a lot of factories, they are there to buy the quality leaf. We went further. The company went further, even agreeing on the premium price to those block farms, to pay more premium price and agreed quality they are going to deliver to the factory. And they have put a margin of percentage of the premium they are going to pay quarterly, depending on the quality benchmarking they have agreed with the block farm, which could be very difficult for individual farmers to do that. So you can see from the block model, there is a lot coming in and a lot of factors coming in to negotiate for the better prices. I can respond that way, the first one. I forgot the second one. What's about?
Do you think that it's the success of the initiative is due to the stability of the Tanzanian government, and maybe in other countries the system could be threatened with an unstable government?
Yeah, for Tanzania, I see it could be very stable because the issue for unemployment, especially for the youth, the government have taken that very serious, and they want to engage them more in the agriculture sector. And one of the key issues, the youth, they are saying they are negative to agriculture sector. They don't own the land. They don't have the land. The land is just owned by their parents. They don't have any land. So they are hesitant to invest on the land which they are not theirs. So with that wing of the government trying to give more land to the youth, I think that's a good direction. And I feel wherever the presidential candidate changes, I don't see if they can change that, because that is the only way you can mitigate and making the youth to join the agriculture sector.
Yeah.
On the other country, I totally agree. You know, there is ups and downs. I've just cited another country we replicated, but that country, they have got already their land surveyed. They have the titles. So I was just working them to be in the blog, working together, agree on the quality and the production and everything, not for going to survey and giving the titles and everything. Yeah.
Thanks, Filbert. And Sita's also asked another interesting question. Are there significant differences in yield and tea quality between block farming and traditional smallholder models?
By far. I can say by far. In terms of production, is 3 times the yield, 3 times for the individual farmers.
Really?
I know why. Because they access the input, especially the fertilizer, even to negotiate people, they are ready to give the fertilizer loan to those blocks. They know there is a business case. Even to recover is very easy because they have one account, they have proper governance and everything. So they get fertilizer easy, the inputs, and also they are producing quality. I didn't mention before we started developing these block farms, we involved the tea research people. They take the sample, they analyze, and they give the recommendation because we didn't want to take these farmers into risk to any land which is not favor in tea growing. Looking on the eye looking, but we need to do a detailed analysis. So we did that, and then we get the recommendation is where we commit the farmers to do the development from that side. So the answer is yes. And in terms of quality, they are far away. As I mentioned before, they're producing the best tea in Africa. In Tanzania. Those blocks farms, they're producing a very good quality tea. Why? Because of the training they're getting there. They have proper logistic of transportation of the leaf to the factory. Compared to the individual farmers, they can pluck the leaf today. The factory they can see is not paying. They cannot go there and take the leaf, or they can go there very late to collect the leaf. So even the quality is quite different from the other individual farmers.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Filbert, and thank you to everybody who's participated for wonderful questions and for your time. And we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. And please do visit Thirst's website. We have a knowledge hub with lots of resources on these kind of issues. And we also you could sign up for our monthly news update on human rights and environmental issues in the tea sector all over the world. But thank you so much, Filbert. It's been a real pleasure. It's been fascinating to hear the story. Even though I've heard it before, I've learned many new things from today's webinar. So thank you so much for that. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, John. Thank you.